Give me a Super Bowl caliber team that you're boom or bust on.
Oh, I'm gonna do this again, it's
Mhm.
so dumb when I do it, and I do it all the time. But Fitz, I'm not a very smart man. I don't learn from my mistakes. The Kansas City Chiefs are gonna regress, right? Like, let's think about last year. We all remember they were winning every close game. They caught every break any team could possibly catch. Set an NFL record with consecutive wins in one-score games. I don't think they. I don't want to sit here and say they were exposed in the Super Bowl. They played a really good team and just had a bad day, and I don't think that was indicative of who the Chiefs are. But I mean, I don't know. Like, all of a sudden now, Rashee Rice, his suspension might be back on the table, and Travis Kelce's getting older. Chris Jones is getting older, as great as he's been. I just wonder, and I think a big part of this too is throughout this Chiefs run, I think 9 straight division titles. How often has there been a good second team in the AFC West? And the answer is pretty rarely. I think there's 2 now. And sorry, Fitz, I don't mean the Raiders in that too.
The
I
Raiders
think
and go ahead.
we could debate whether you like the Broncos or Chargers more to compete with the Chiefs in this division. Maybe the answer is both. I like the Chargers. Others prefer the Broncos, but I think you're going to get again, these 2 teams did make the playoffs last year. I think you're going to get both of those teams kind of nipping at the Chiefs' heels this year. And I don't think all these close wins are going to carry over like this. It's just hard for me to believe you can't keep hitting on 16 at the blackjack table and keep getting 5s and 4s every single time. Eventually, you're going to bust. And I get Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes elevates them in close games. I get that. I do. But the streak, the heater they're on in close games is just ridiculous. And that can't carry over. And I think we're going to look up in December where we're used to like, oh, the Chiefs have clinched the AFC West. What seed are they going to get? Like, we're going to look up in December and say, wow, are the Chiefs going to be a wild card team this year? Because the Broncos and Chargers are right there with them.
I
Am I
for the
foolish?
sake of
That pause was I am foolish for fading the Chiefs yet again
no,
because I do this
so
every year.
here's
I
the
do this
thing.
every year.
The logic is right. Everything you said about the logic is right. I just can't. I got to remind everybody that we talked about the Chiefs and how broken they were last year, and they went 15-2. Regression for the Chiefs is what?
Crazy.
12
And
and
basically,
5?
by the way, Fitz,
Like
15 and 1. If you want to get they sat everybody in the last week and were like, just win this game, Broncos. We don't care. Like they
yeah,
were
I
basically a
mean,
15 and 1 football team. Okay, so go on. Yeah.
so that's the hard part for me because look, the way you beat the Chiefs is to have, obviously the Eagles gave us all the blueprint. You just need to have one of the best defenses in the league, one of the best offensive lines in the league, a really good quarterback
Saquon
with some great
Barkley. Yeah,
weapons,
yeah.
and the best running back in the league. You have all
Yeah,
that on one team. You might beat them just like beat them ugly for a Sunday. I still think, honestly, if I have to, this is what I try and do at this time of year. You know this. I try and universally apply positive or negative. So as a Raiders fan, I can easily sit down and say, well, these are all of the things that I think are going to line up for my team. If I do that, then I have to be fair and take all of the same positives for everybody else and stack all the positives versus all the positives or all the negatives versus all the negatives. If I take the Chiefs from a negative standpoint and say, you know what, the offensive line still might have some issues. Maybe there were some cracks in that defense. They can't keep winning close games. If I want to take all those negatives, well, can I not then, if I'm universally applying those negatives, I mean, Bo Nix may or may not have been a one-hit wonder. We're not really sure still what the weapons look like there. And they had a historic year on defense. Can you run that back? Is any sort of a
right.
drop for that defense for the Broncos? They'll take a step back. For the Chargers, health is always an issue, and we still haven't seen that explosive moment. I'm still curious about what the weapons are going to look like around Justin Herbert and the Raiders. I mean, there's a million reasons that defense could end up being historically Bengals bad. So, like, I'm with you that it's easy to say, hey, the Chiefs take a step back. But if I'm going to apply that, I have to apply that same sort of doubt to everybody. And when I do that, I just think we're going to be right in the same spot. Like, I feel like the Chargers are a 10-win team and the Broncos are a 10-win team and the Chiefs are a 13-win team. And it'll be a little bit sexier this year.
I don't think you'll mind me interrupting you to say this. I think the Raiders are going to be better, like much better. Like, how could they
Yeah,
not be?
yeah.
So we're talking about the Chiefs. Look, I don't think the Chiefs are going to be that much worse, honestly. I just think there's a lot of factors, like all these coin flip close. The shotgun snap is not always going to hit Aiden O'Connell in the shoulder and be recovered by the Chiefs. Like, that's not, you're not going to always doink in the field goal on the last play against the Chargers. Some of these things are going to go against you. And the division is so much better, including the Raiders. And I'm not saying the Raiders are going to compete with the Chiefs, win that division. but I don't know that they're an easy out anymore either. I don't know that the Chiefs are going to be like, okay, we
I think
got
they're a
this one.
7 or
Let's
8 win
just
team. I
sure.
think the Raiders are a 7 or 8 win teams. And if the Raiders are a 7 or 8 win team and the Broncos and the Chargers are both 10 or 11 win teams, you're right. Math says that some of those wins are going to have to come against the Chiefs, right? Like, so I could get the Chiefs down to like 12-5, and maybe that will feel like tremendous regression, but I don't know, man. Like, I have a hard time
I
betting
think they're.
against them. Like,
I do think they're. I do think that we're talking about boom and bust. They're not going 5-12. I know that. I understand that. But bust for them. Might they not win the AFC West this year? I think that's on the table. I think for the first time, realistically, I've had my Chargers, infatuations before. Whereas, oh, this is the year that, and
we
then
all have.
their coaching is just terrible. But Jim Harbaugh is one of the best coaches on the planet. He's a weird dude, really, really weird dude, but absolutely positively elite coach. The Broncos, another elite coach, Super Bowl winning coach. I just think that again, the bust for the Chiefs is you are a wild card team, and maybe you go on the road Buffalo week one or Ravens wild card weekend and you lose. That's a bust for them. That's not winning the
That's
AFC
fair.
West and not making the AFC Championship game again because that is their level. That's a huge bust for them. So I'm not saying they're going to be terrible. And obviously the boom, like the ceiling is they can win a Super Bowl. We all know that. Like we all understand that. But I think there's a potential this year that maybe the Chiefs don't win that division. I mean, if all of a sudden these breaks don't go their way, and I'm not bringing in referee stuff, please don't. I think if some of these breaks don't go their way, all of a sudden we're looking and saying, "Oh wow, they got to go on the road week one." This is the first time ever for the Chiefs as a wild card in the Mahomes era. I think that's on the table.
All right, so I'll give you another Super Bowl contender on Boomer Bust on. We've talked a little bit about this. You know what's coming. The Detroit Lions. And I want Detroit to go out and win the Super Bowl. I think it'd be the most incredible story in the NFL this year. The
Yeah,
Lions winning the Super Bowl. Like, I'm a couple of episodes into quarterback on Netflix, and I didn't think I could fall more in love with the Lions story. And then you watch a few episodes of golf, and you're like, God, I mean, watching them get all
right.
teary eyed and emotional about what it means to be embraced by that city. My God, the Lions winning the Super Bowl would be one of the greatest things that ever happened because it gives hope to every fan base that's ever lived through suck for generations. I want the Lions to win the Super Bowl. That's the boom, and I think they're fully capable of it. The bust, and I saw Jory, our own Jory Epstein, went into their camp, and I think it was Amon-Ra St. Brown that made it clear, like, hey, it's not like we suddenly got a bunch of bums coaching. We still got guys that know ball. Man, when you're replacing as many coaches and then as much of their offensive line as you're replacing,
Yeah,
that just, Frank, feels to me it's really dicey. And bust now for the Lions, like, a 10-7 season where they're out in the first round of the playoffs will feel like a bust. They're in a Super Bowl window. I still think that the Lions are a playoff team either way, but bust really does feel like it could be there for them if everything doesn't align right. And I continually say you're not just replacing an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator. You're replacing an offensive coordinator that was so wildly well regarded that the league was competing against itself to try and
yep,
bring him in as the most heralded coaching hire of the year. You don't just need a really good offensive coordinator. You need to have, if you're truly going to replace Ben Johnson, you need to have one of the 2 or 3 best offensive coordinators in football. If you're going to replace Aaron Glenn, you're going to have one of the best 2 or 3 defensive coordinators
right.
in football. I think that's really hard to just manifest. And that makes me feel like that combined with the 2/5 of their offensive line changing. Man, I'm nervous about Detroit.
Yeah, and for as much as I mean, these guys are talking of John Morton, their new offensive coordinator replaces Ben Johnson. There's not a ton of proof of concept. I mean, everybody's got to prove it at some point or another, and he's coached under a lot of really, really good coaches and learned there. But I don't know that necessarily that means he's Ben Johnson. And I do worry this. The bust for the Lions is they're looking back a few years from now saying, man, we had that game at 49ers in the NFC Championship. Man, how do
Mm,
we lay an egg so bad against the Commanders as a 1 seed? We were 2 home wins away from a Super Bowl. They're like, it just, and part of this too is look at the Lions played in the AFC South. I wouldn't be that nervous about them, but I'm high on the Vikings. I'm not giving up on the Vikings. I'm not. I think the Vikings, until I see otherwise, the Vikings are not that far off of the 14-3 team we saw last year. They're not going to win 14 games again. That's still a really, really good football team. And I don't think that losing Sam Darnold makes them some 500 team. Like, I just don't. I refuse to believe that until I see it. The Packers have no weakness. They have the deepest. Now, they don't have a high end roster, a lot of blue chip guys, but the Packers' floor is so high that the Packers are going to be a 11 win team rolling out of bed unless injuries happen. And then we talked about Ben Johnson. The Bears are coming. If the Bears hits, that's going to hit big. Like I've already said, I can see a path for Caleb Williams being the MVP of the league this year. Like that's how it might hit with the Bears. Well, that's got to affect the Lions at some point, right? Like you're not winning 15 games again. It's so hard to do that even once. That's not going to happen again. And then all of a sudden, you have these other three really, really quality teams in your division. I'm not saying like the Lions are going to be last place or anything, but I can't sit here and tell you for sure that they're going to be first either. Like this is a very, very tough thing because I'm with you. I'm rooting for the Lions. I think it's a great story. It's an unbelievable story. How do you not root for the Detroit Lions? But I also do wonder if we've already reached the point of looking back saying, man, remember when Ben Johnson was their offensive coordinator? Now he's had 10 years as Bears coach and he's been so great with them, but the Lions had him as their head coach. And Eric Glenn, too, he's turned around the Jets and they had him as their defensive coordinator. And you just can't replace that. And the offensive line stuff worries me. There's a lot of drain for the Lions that I don't know that they could just bounce back from. I like the Lions. I want to like the Lions, but I think the bus case is real here, and that stinks. It really does stink.
Well, it's one thing that Goff and quarterback stressed. Like it was exciting to come someplace that had never won because think of what we could do if we actually do it.
Right.
Now you're living in that world. Now that you have one, the expectations are different. The word bust is defined differently for the Detroit Lions today than it was a decade ago, and that's just true. Like now, when you're in this window, everybody's starting to get nervous. What if they don't get to the peak? What if they can't take advantage of it? I think that changes the way we perceive success. All right, that does it for us. We're going to keep you caught up on everything you need to know about training camp on this show and throughout Yahoo Sports. So if you're not following us all over social media, you should be, and we appreciate it. Also, take the time to rate, review, subscribe. Makes a difference for us. So it's a big deal. So 5-star review, rate, review, subscribe. Tell your friends, family, and enemies to hang out with us every single week. We love hanging out with you. Training camp's finally here. We have made it through all of this, and now we will actually get to talk about real, meaningful football every single week. We couldn't be more excited. On behalf of everybody that works their tails off behind the scenes, thanks so much for listening. Have a great week, y'all. Yeah, just so I know what he's actually got.
Sweet. Good. I appreciate you. I appreciate quick, easy fix with that.